Hello everyone, I'm so glad you're here and I hope you will enjoy hanging out with me as I make this simple gathered skirt. So this is the fabric that I'm working with. It's just a really simple light green cotton and I had a ton of it, so I was really excited to be able to make a big full long skirt. So you can obviously adjust this if you want a much shorter skirt, or if you want it to be a little bit less voluminous, you can just cut your fabric to meet whatever you're looking for. So I've gone ahead and kind of held it up to myself to see how long I wanted it to be and how much I needed to cut off. And I found that to be about 6 inches. So I've just folded it neatly and I'm going and measuring 6 inches at the bottom of the fabric. And I'm going to cut that straight across along the width, the length, along the bottom of, what will be the bottom of the skirt, the fabric that I'm using for that. So, and then I'm just folding it over so that I can kind of make sure that as I'm cutting, I'm keeping it along that straight line that I had measured. And then there you have it. I've got my big, long waistband strip. So it worked out great because I needed about this much cut off the bottom to get the length of it right. And I was able to just use that for the waistband. So then I'm just showing you the edges here. So now that I've cut that off the bottom and I've got the length that I want, I've got this giant rectangle of fabric to work with for this skirt. So since it's just straight edges on all sides, it's just a big old rectangle, I'm just going and rolling my edges and sewing those down to finish them so that they're nice and neat. All the raw edges are hidden away. We're not going to have any fraying. You could obviously finish your edges a different way if you prefer. I just find rolling on straight edges to be really easy. So since this is just a big rectangle, that was the way that I chose to do it. And I just like with gathered skirts kind of going and making sure my edges are nice and neat before I go and gather the top of the skirt. Because once those edges are done, pretty much all you have to do is gather the top and then, get your waistband ready and attach the waistband to the top of the skirt. And I guess then close the back seam and you're pretty much good to go. So I just like having these edges done kind of right at the very start. So that's what I'm working on here. I'm just going all along the edges of that entire giant rectangle. It looks like I've finished it there. And now I've got that big long strip that I cut, which is going to be the waistband. So I'm just putting that right sides together and I'm going to sew that down all the way along the length of that. And in a moment, you'll see I will turn that right side out and iron it so that that waistband is nice and neat to be attached to the skirt. And I made that waistband extra long so that I can kind of just tie this skirt closed, which you'll be able to see in the end of the video when I kind of reveal it. You'll see how that looks. But you could obviously cut your waistband just to the width of your waist and then, close it with buttons or a zipper or something like that. But I find that the tie closure is just really easy to do, and I think it looks really pretty with the little bow. So that's how I did it. This is my cute little guy, Liam. He was hanging out with me for part of this process of making this skirt, and he's just my cheerful guy. So he was checking out the fabric for me, making sure I did a good job on those edges. And that's all I was showing you there, was just those edges being finished. And then this is the waistband. You can see it's still inside out. And there's Liam again. Had to show you another shot of him. So you can kind of see that, that big old rectangle that I'm using for this skirt as it's all laid out there. And all those edges are done. So now let's see. I think next we're going to go ahead and flip the waistband right side out. Liam. So yeah, I'm just taking a safety pin. Is that what it's called? Why am I blanking on what a safety pin? Is that right? That doesn't sound right, like coming out of my mouth right now, but we're going to go with it. Yeah, a safety pin. And I just hook that onto one end of the piece that I'm trying to flip. And then you just draw that all the way through that tube and it'll help you to turn the whole thing right side out. And then once I've turned it right side out, I am going to iron the whole thing down nicely, which I thought I filmed doing that, but I think that clip is not here. So sorry you don't get to see me iron, but you get the idea, I'm sure. You're just going to iron it and make it nice and neat. And then this is the process of gathering. So I've set my machine to the longest and widest stitch setting, and I'm going to back stitch only at the start of, the stitch. So I'm starting the top of this skirt, right? This whole long top part of this rectangle, and I'm going to stitch all the way down that. And then I'm left with these threads at the end. So I'm not back stitching when I get to the end. And, I'm using one hand here so you can't really see, but you'll see in a second how I'm doing this. You're going to grab onto one of those threads and then you just gently pull, and that fabric is going to gather onto that thread. So that's what I'm doing here. It's just a long, really wide stitch all along the top of that fabric that you're using for your skirt. And then you just gather it all together. And I ended up having to go back and, oh wow, this is a really flattering angle of me too. Yikes. I had to go back and do that stitch again by hand with a thicker, tougher thread, because this thread actually that I'm working with here ended up snapping right as I was getting towards the end of it. So I didn't end up keeping that in here. I think I honestly just forgot to film it. But either way, whether you're able to do it with your machine or you do it by hand, same difference. And this is what it'll look like once you've got it all gathered together. And then you just want to gather it to the point where it's going to fit nicely around your waist, or fit, into your waistband. So I'm going to try that on, I believe, in a second here. Yep, there we go. And just get it to the point that I want it so it'll fit nicely around my waist. And once it's at that place, I will just tie off that thread that I used to gather it. And yeah, then it'll kind of just be a matter of attaching it to the waistband. And then we'll just close up the back of the skirt in a minute as well. So I've gone ahead and just taken my waistband and I'm going to put it right sides together with the top of the skirt, that gathered portion at the top of the skirt. That way when it's sewn together along, like where you can see I have the pins there, it'll flip up like this, like I'm showing you, and all of those edges will be hidden inside and it'll look nice and neat. You could also take your waistband and kind of sandwich the top of the skirt into the waistband and then sew it down that way. That's another great way to do it. I just found that I liked the way that this looked a little bit better. I think it looked a little bit more neat. So that's how I chose to do it. Super easy, right sides together along the top of the skirt, sew it down, and there you go, your waistband is attached. And then I made sure to finish the ends of the waistband as well, which I don't think I put in here, but it's, just finishing the ends, nothing too fancy. And then this is the back seam that I'm showing you here. So let's see. I think I'm going to point it out in a second. Yes, so I'm pointing right here to the hem. That whole thing down there, that's the hem. And then this right here is the back seam of the skirt. So right sides together, I'm going to go and sew that back seam together, just up, not quite all the way so that I can fit my butt into the skirt, but that'll close the skirt together in the back, and it is done. So I hope this has made some kind of sense. It's, some of this stuff is really hard to describe, but hopefully you were able to kind of see what I was doing. And there I am frolicking in the skirt. It's just so easy, and I was really happy with the way it turned out. So here's a picture of the finished result. There you have it. Sorry I'm so bad at taking pictures and reveal footage and stuff. I just feel so awkward doing it. But I think it turned out really pretty. They're so easy to make. And it is very long. I am going to hem it a little bit just so that it's a little bit easier to move around in day to day. But I do like my skirts long. So it's super pretty. Very fun to frolic in. Very easy to make. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you again soon.